What's up, Zach here, and today I've got the all-new New Balance Coco CG2, and these things are just absolute beasts. Let's get into them. Thanks to New Balance for sending me a pair of these over to check out. However, as always, this video is not sponsored, and all opinions, good, bad, and indifferent, are all my own. And as you can see right now, I am just dripping sweat. Number one, it's 96 degrees outside, but it wasn't from playing in them, it was from trying to tear them down. These things were by far the toughest shoe I've ever had to tear down. The build quality on these things and just the toughness of them is just absolutely unmatched. It was absolutely crazy. Now that build quality does start in the uppers. Now, like the original CG1, these things are, a mid-top construction and a pretty substantial mid-top at that. Now the CG2 is reinforced, number one, with this netted mesh, but then on top of it is, I'm not sure if this is real leather or fake leather or vegan leather, pleather, whatever you want to call it. And then it also has some suede elements here on the lateral side. So a lot of substantial materials overlapping each other. This lace line is also completely reinforced with that suede and leather. And then the most proximal eyelet is just reinforced with stitching. Now, as you go into the distal forefoot, you do get this triangular pattern of TPU drag guard that goes all the way from the medial side all the way over onto more of the distal lateral side of the shoe. Now, the one thing I did notice is on the inside, the tongue, it doesn't have super thick padding, but I also had absolutely zero lace irritation either. I mean, it is still padded, but it's not a super bulky tongue. It does have that netted mesh on the underneath side and then the thicker padding on the top side. And it does have a pretty broad gusset going down into the foot. So even though these are mid tops, you still do get a pretty good feeling of lockdown just from the gusset of the tongue. Now, I think the more interesting thing is, you look at this thing on the breathability test, it only heated up 105.7 degrees. And for all of this, just all of this shoe around you, I thought that was pretty incredible. The reason for that is you look in the forefoot of these shoes, and although, there is quite a bit of material in terms of TPU drag guard on the outside, there isn't a lot of material in the forefoot. There is some padding, it's pretty thin, but you look at the breathability mapping of them, that's where the fog is really blowing out of there. So whereas they're really substantial in the ankle collar, I mean, they have such just wide, thick padding here in the ankle collar, and then getting into the midfoot of the shoe, like I said, it's reinforced to the hilt on the outside. On the inside of the shoe, it's a little bit more minimal padding there. So you're getting more breathability out of that, and then subsequently, most of the substance that you see and feel in the shoe actually comes from the outside of the shoe, not necessarily from padding inside of it. And speaking of the outside of these, if you look at the upper durability test, 10-second tie grit sandpaper, I mean, yeah, the burr basically just cleans off that TPU drag guard. The one thing I will say is there is exposed foam, so it might look a little bit weird if you're dragging and sliding. And I think if you kind of catch the inside of this, woven mesh on the inside of that, you'll probably start to, make it look a little weird. However, that TPU is so thick, that drag guardiness is so thick that I think it'll take a while for that to happen. Like I said, unless you're a very, very aggressive dragger or slider on very gritty hard courts, then I could see these wearing down a little bit faster. And just going one step deeper on the lockdown, obviously these are a pretty substantial mid-top shoe. The heel slippage on these is pretty much none, but it's not just the mid-top. Some mid-tops you actually do start to slip on the inside of the shoe. Like I said, it's more the tongue and just, like I said, how substantial the gusset is and how good of a lockdown you're getting from the integrated lace eyelets and that tongue. I will say that I did have a little bit of irritation on my Achilles. Once I took them off and then put them back on, to go play again, then it was fine. But because that heel counter is pretty substantial, I mean, it is tough. It does not allow a lot of torsion side to side. And just because of the nature of a mid-top, wear them around the house for a little bit, like just 20 minutes, a half hour before you go play in them. You'll save yourself the irritation and the Achilles, potential blistering. All right, but getting into midsole teardown, I'm actually still sweating because of this. You can actually get your Foot Dr. Zach merch and use it as a towel, just like I do. But the thing is I could not get through this carbon fiber shank with my knife. I actually had to go to one of my, more heavy duty scissors, and I really don't like doing that with shoes, because, kind of ruins the scissors sometimes. But I mean, had to get through them. And it just shows the build quality of this midsole. Now, number one, this is a bottom loaded, double thickness carbon fiber shank that sends 2 leaflets into the forefoot. The springboard effect of that is just out of control. It is crazy. And then the rest of it is just a full bed of fuel cell foam, which fuel cell foam, I'm used to not really seeing a ton of pop. It's light, it's airy, it's got some easy bounce, but it's not necessarily a moon shoe. If you look at this setup on the bounce height test, 36 centimeters in the rear foot, 40 in the forefoot. That is nuts for this type of foam. And honestly, you feel it on foot. I mean, these things haul. Just getting up and down, up and down, up and down is absolutely insane on these things. Like I've said in a lot of my basketball videos, I am a lot of dude to get up into the air. And even me, I felt just so easy getting up for those overheads, right? Like, you know, those overhead shots I show you, like where I kind of have to backpedal and get up. Just super easy, serving over and over and over and over again. Really no problem whatsoever in these. Like I said, that springboard effect of that shank, especially because it does have a little bit of an arc to it, not much, but it's got a little bit of an arc on there. So you are getting a little bit more preloading in there. I mean, just really everything about this midsole. Number one, this formulation of fuel cell. I'm not sure what New Balance did to that to make it bounce that well in the bounce height test, but like I said, you do feel it underfoot as well. Plus the shank on these. Like I said, the setup is pretty similar to the CG1. These versus the CG1s, much more pogo stick-like, much more diving board-like. Like I said, the difference was just so stark, even from that shoe to this one, like I said, where the setup looks pretty similar, but you know, just little tweaks, and all of a sudden the shoe just, you know, really, you know, can perform differently. Now the outsole tread on these things is really interesting. It's got like pentagons, hexagons, triangles. It's really got everything, some linear tread, just basically multi-directional pods of tread, like in different configurations. And if you look at it on the grip test ramp, it doesn't slip till 41 degrees. The grip on these is actually pretty good. Honestly, if you're a big slider or dragger, you probably should break these in a little bit before you go to really slide, because like I said, they will grip. If you look at these on the viewing box, not a ton of rubber movement. That the durometer does come in at a 17, so it is harder rubber. But remember, these pods of tread a little bit more narrow, right? They're not the super flat tread profile you see for a lot more like sliding first shoes. To me, these are more grip, pivot, and go type shoes. You can slide in them just because of, you know, like I said, the tread is flat, you know, where it actually, where the rubber meets the road. But to me, like I said, they definitely require a little bit more break-in. Now, speaking of that, if you look at the outsole durability test on these things, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, I mean, not even a millimeter of damage on this, so that's good. Like I said, durometer is pretty high. I would say, though, if you're a really big slider or dragger, you might start to meld some of this tread together, which obviously will make it a little bit easier to slide, but also I think will take down the durability of these, versus if you're someone with more dancing footwork, or like I said, a little bit more of hard stop footwork, right? A little more, I should say, I guess you could say clean footwork, right? Instead of more sliding or dragging footwork, then I would say the durability on these goes up and up and up. But speaking of that footwork, you look at the speed ratio of these, comes in at a 2.54, shank score of 0.3 brings these up to a 2.84. And honestly, I think that's, you know, woefully underselling it. And it's not even the fact that you've got the springboard and the forefoot, but, you know, number two, they actually are pretty streamlined. But number three, the stopping power of these things is insane. You got this piece of carbon fiber here on the lateral side of the shoe, which honestly, to me, carbon fiber plastic, I don't get too hyped up one versus the other, to be honest. Plastic does just as well in a lot of cases as well. Carbon fiber, you know, obviously a little bit lighter, you know, right, pound for pound. But on this one, because they've got such a really broad piece here on the lateral side of the rear foot, you can just pivot so hard in these things, right? You can stop on a dime, and these things change direction so fast. And I think that's where the speed on these things really comes from, is the change of direction, right? So if you're tracking down a ball, someone hits behind you, that ability for this shoe to snap the other direction is just unparalleled. Like I said, in terms of off-axis speed, in terms of kind of like weird angle speed when you're changing directions, and just, you know, get up and go up and down, just hauling speed. Like I said, to me, these are one of the fastest shoes on the market right now, if not the fastest. But getting into the fit of the Coco CG2, this is where they really remind me of the CG1. They are probably one of New Balance's less forgiving shoes in terms of width. Now these do come in a standard and in a wide version. I have the wide version right here. That's what I got sent. Now these things have an 11-degree in flare, and they have a 28.8 degree length, which is pretty standard. A metatarsal width with their wide at 9.4 centimeters, a toe box width of only 9.9 centimeters, and then a toe box taper of only 25 degrees, which was nice to see, a little bit more forgiving up there. What I will say is, you know, if the metatarsal width is 9.4 centimeters on the wide version, you know, it's probably just going to be right around the 9.1 centimeter mark for the standard version of these. So to me, a narrow medium foot and go true to size. A 2E, you can go true to size in your wide width version If you're getting the standard or can only find the standard version, you better be going up a half size on these. A 4E, I'd probably be going up a size on these, or half size in the wide version of these. Like I said, these are just a little bit more streamlined shoes, a little bit more, like I said, glove-like fit. I did break them in, but I did have some cramping, even in the wide version on my left side. And that was honestly kind of similar to the CG1s. The CG1s, you know, just a little bit more, like I said, streamlined shoes, a little more glove-like fitting shoes versus something like the CT Rally, the 996, where it's more that traditional New Balance, a little bit more forgiving in the midfoot and you know, metatarsal areas of the shoe. Now, in terms of the snake bitten foot versus the CG1s, where I thought they were good, right? Especially for arch pain, arch strain, hallux limitus, things like that. But for a lot of other things, I thought, you know, an orthotic would really do well augmenting those. In these, because the fuel cell is so forgiving, it's just so lively. Honestly, heel pain, ball of foot pain, arch strain, knee, hip, back pain, right? Any shock-induced injuries, right? Shin splints, things like that. I think these are absolutely fantastic for. You can put an orthotic in these though, which is the better part, or a brace. So honestly, with even just a low profile orthotic in here, honestly, I think that just really takes these up to another level, especially because you can lock one in very easily, even a more bulky custom orthotic. But I would just say if you're someone that is a chronic ankle sprainer, like number one, like I said, it does fit a brace. If you're putting a brace on and putting these on, then it becomes, I would say, one of the better shoes out there. But if you're not putting a brace on, to me, remember, high tops do not prevent ankle sprains, but with the reinforcement in there, like I said, they're okay. They're not bad whatsoever, but to me, the New Balance CT Rally is one of the more elite shoes out there for ankle sprainers. So to me, that's probably where I'd be going. And getting into the all-important playability, if you see how much I'm sweating, you probably guess how hot it is. I think I talked about it earlier in the video, but it's been in the upper 90s recently, and I could not get my GoPro to stop overheating. So a lot of the action shots when I was out on actual court playing in these, just could not get the camera to stay on. So that's why I built this, you know, tennis wall here, so I could get shots whenever I need to, bring the cameras into here, cool off, things like that. I will say though, like I said, these are honestly some of the most violently fast shoes I've ever put on, especially if it's not your number one, a serve and volley or a really high level doubles player and you got to get to the net quick. I mean, I'm not sure how much better you could get, especially because they also have that change of direction speed, right? So if you're serving and then going for a really low volley or just having to make those super quick pivoting steps, especially on a doubles court, I mean, these are just absolutely fantastic. If you're someone that tracks down a lot of balls, right? You play more of a retrieving style game, or if you're just winning points through wars of attrition, they're really gonna help your feet and legs feeling fresh, getting into the deeper parts of a match, especially when you're starting to feel fatigue. These things really become a friend to you in those situations. Especially someone that really prides himself on a big serve, right? You really like leap into your serve. Once again, really a great pickup. And I would say the only sensation these things didn't give me was that sensation you get from a shoe like the Vapor Pro, the original, or like the Vapor 10, that's super low to the ground, tacky feeling where your big toe and your metatarsal heads really feel like you can just, feel every little nook and cranny of the hard court. These ones much more of a maximalist feel underfoot, much more of a springboard feel underfoot. And honestly, for someone like me, it was a welcome feeling underfoot, like I said, especially in the kind of the heat wave we're having out here. Especially playing outdoor basketball, like I said, these are one of the better outdoor basketball shoes. And like I thought the CG1 was one of the best. These are better than that just because like on a really unforgiving outdoor court, being able to get up and up and up with these for layup after layup after layup is really gonna be, especially if you're trying to beat somebody right to the rim too. Once again, these are just absolutely fantastic. For pickleball, I think they're fine, especially if you're looking for a shoe for both indoor and outdoor pickleball. These actually grip indoor courts quite well, surprisingly well, better than the CG1. So are they the best pickleball shoe out there? To me, I'd rather have the CT Rally for pickleball. These are much more like, I think, for the length and shape of a tennis court. But you're looking for both an indoor and outdoor shoe that can grip both surfaces. Yeah, I think they're okay. Like I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts about these just because of the CG1, like I said, how different they were in the New Balance lineup than these. A little bit different even from the CG1. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you do want to see what I'm talking about, the Onyx Ad XL, another super fast shoe, does go about it in a little bit of a different way, much like the Nike GP Turbo did. Make sure you click into this video up above and make sure you subscribe to the Foot Doctor Zach Dubs channel as well, where we go into much deeper topics in more of the tennis and pickleball, outdoor court space. So make sure you click into that video above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you someone in the Sneakerverse.